us architects, the house I'm about to visit is thought to be something of a myth, hidden away in the mountains and not visible from the road. It's supposed to be an architectural gem, and today is the first time the house owners have allowed a film crew here, so you can just imagine my curiosity. This mystery house, tucked away in the Wicklow Mountains, was built in 1982. The original design by ABK Architects was well ahead of its time, with its green roofs and somewhat commercial look. When the son of the previous owner inherited the property, he upgraded and extended the original two-bedroom house to create a fantastic family home. I'm meeting with John Parker of ABK Architects, who was involved in the current design. Hi John, pleased to meet you.
Good to meet you, Una. Welcome to Wicklow.
Thank you.
In the original house, this is actually an external passage between the side of the mountain and the house proper, so it is very dark and quite gloomy. Essentially, this all leads you through the front into the heart of the house, which is this space here.
Wow. Now this is just incredible because it obviously changes in height. It's gone from linear to very volumetric because it's so vertical. It ties the upstairs to the downstairs and it ties all these rooms together. So it really is the heart of the house with this wonderful geometric shape to it.
The space also connects this ground floor, the public realm of the house, to the private realm above. It's very nice the way you find the stairs in a different part of the house which leads you up to that upper section. And this leads on to another space. It's not specifically an open planned house and it was never designed as such. The rooms themselves are quite particular. They're quite contained and structured, and that space is articulated by the hipped roof of this concrete ceiling. I mean, in a way, you can sort of see this house as being like a series of caves. It's quite a rough looking house from the outside, but there's something elegant about the interior. From these rooms, you can get these really fine vistas from space to space.
A walkway leading from the living room connects to a dining room and kitchen, including a breakfast area. And although there are no interconnecting doors, each open space feels enclosed and warm.
From here, one can go outside into the garden. It's the original water source of the river which has been channeled, and it kind of brings the river closer to the house.
Gotcha.
And the sound of the water closer to the house, even though in the background you can actually hear the river itself. The lawns have been cut in underneath the trees, so at a certain point the landscape of the house, as it were, becomes a wilderness and blends back into the valley. But I think it's quite funny that the roof of the house is probably the wildest piece of grass.
The concrete is the most fantastically red, rich colour. What exactly is that?
The fungus, actually, that grows in the concrete. And when we were refurbishing the house, we had quite extensive talks with the client as to whether we should clean it or whether we should leave it. The idea that if we clean it, they would probably it would regrow because it's Irish and it lives here. For us, we decided it was all part of that making of a place. So the house is buried in the mountain, and even the concrete is the product of the place. But it does contrast quite strongly against the white concrete.
Yeah.
Once you realise that it's the nature of the place, you can begin to appreciate it. The fact that the staining of the concrete becomes part of the palette of the building all begins to make this completely rooted in this valley and rooted to the river, which actually is the backdrop to the scheme. The actual geometry of the house, or the way the house is sited, makes for quite an efficient or energy efficient building. I mean, what's quite interesting about the river is that in a very practical way, we took advantage of it as an energy source. So we're taking energy from the river using a heat exchanger. That's a very economic way for heating the house. I'll just show you around upstairs.
Okay.
So this is the master bedroom suite, which has its own private terrace.
It's very different having, you know, the window behind and then the mirror in front.
Yeah, we designed the mirror particularly for this location. Look at yourself and make up, and at the same time you can get some light, and you can take in the view that all of those would work together. And finally, this is the master bedroom. It is the only room in the house that gets this wonderful view out into the woods. The room is very much so oriented towards that landscape.
What would you say was your inspiration for the design of the house?
The original house was very much rooted in the landscape. So I think to a huge extent that drove the project.
So how did you bring in the more modern ideas of sustainability to the project?
The least obvious one is the fact that we reused a house. The original house was actually quite good for its time, but we spent quite a lot of effort making it more energy efficient without destroying some of that character, I suppose. The whole of the house was re-insulated, so significantly the roofs, the floors, the walls, basically wrapped the house up, and that was quite a careful, thorough exercise. In fact, there's an element in this project where the strategy or the proposal of the house is contrary to good energy consumption, because there's a concrete frame that tends to soak up heat, and there's quite a lot of glass, so there was quite a lot of effort in how to think of remaking the house while keeping the architectural quality of the spaces.
To some people, this house might look a bit clinical or hotel-like. To me, though, this house stands for everything I think architecture should be. And in fact, this house is definitely one of the best I've seen so far.